Welcome into the DNVR Rockies podcast. I'm your host, Susie Hunter, and this is a very special episode. The story I'm about to tell is one of the craziest in sports, and it happened to a Colorado Rockies farm team.
It wasn't fun. I mean, we were living out of our suitcases, out of hotels.
We became the most hated sports organization in Connecticut.
It was hard for us and the fans, that didn't have a chance to see us playing.
It was hotel field. That's all it was.
This is the story of the Road Goats, the lost Hartford Yard Goat season of 2016. The Hartford Yard Goats, it's a name that got a lot of attention, but so did that team, and not for reasons they would have chosen. The inaugural Yard Goats team is the only team in pro baseball to play an entire season on the road like this, and it happened to a Rockies affiliate 8 years ago. And a lot of future major leaguers were there. It's a team that produced all-stars and aces, the greatest team never seen. I was a journalist at the Hartford Courant from 2014 to 2018, so I was there for the Yard Goats inception and there for the Road Goat season. And it's one of the wildest stories in baseball that we do not talk about enough. But I bet you're wondering how we got here. The story starts in 2014. The New Britain Rock Cats announced 2015 will be their last season in town. By 2016, there would be a new team with a new name in a brand new ballpark. At least that was the plan. The mayor of New Britain, Aaron Stewart, did not take this news well, and for a while, that became the story. Were you guys aware of all of that was happening?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really read the newspaper or anything, but my father-in-law would keep me up to date on like what was coming out in the papers and stuff.
That's pitcher Matt Carasiti. He was on that 2016 team and was born in New Britain, Connecticut.
I knew that there was, some tension between it. Obviously, that's an expensive stadium in Hartford, and I know where they were in New Britain, they weren't very happy that they were moving, but that stadium had seen its day.
Mayor Aaron Stewart plays a huge role in this part of the story. Also, she was my age, so we're talking about a young woman in her 20s. It's her first term. Her dad was mayor too, so she's got deep roots, and she does not react well to this beloved team moving away. She even told the press that the team had overdue bills and then had to totally backtrack on that because it wasn't true. We watched all of this juicy political drama where they're fighting over a Rockies farm team. But that was their first obstacle. We had no idea that there were much bigger ones to come. Tim Restall was the general manager of the Hartford Yard Goats in 2016.
As we started turning into 2016, we were getting, information and feedback that, Duncan Park was not going to be ready, and that we were trying to start planning for what if it's not ready and how we're going to address that, because come April, we had to play baseball.
One of those players just trying to play was a then 23-year-old future Rockies ace, Kyle Freeland.
The last few days of camp is when they sat all the guys down who were going to AA and told us that there's some issues with the stadium. It's not quite done yet, but you guys will be on the road for the first few weeks, possibly a month, until the stadium's ready for you guys to go in.
Just a couple of weeks late, that's what they thought. Meanwhile, in Connecticut, the people of Hartford have all of these issues. People don't like the name, but they like the logo and the merchandise. A lot of people don't like the location. The Goats were trying to transform this blighted intersection into something that would eventually benefit the whole city. For context, there are people in Hartford who don't want their taxes to go up because of a publicly funded stadium. You have people from the more affluent suburbs convinced they'll get mugged going to a game. They have a public feud with an elected official. And after all of that, the construction company originally contracted is way behind schedule. It turns into a logistical nightmare for the team and the Eastern League. All of this is going on while a bunch of young men are fighting for their dream job.
Once we heard that, we were kind of like, this isn't going to be very fun for us over the next few months.
We're going to take a quick break to tell you this show is brought to you by Indeed. Indeed is driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you're ready to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with more than 350 million global users monthly, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. So all of our listeners can get a $75 sponsored job credit when you go to Indeed.com/AllCity. Just go to Indeed.com/AllCity right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. The show's also brought to you by Circa Resorts and Casino, the home of Stadium Swim, a 143-foot LED screen to watch all your favorite teams. 2 swim-up bars. They've got cabanas. They've got super cabanas, and it's open every day of the year. Experience Stadium Swim and watch your favorite teams at Circa Resort and Casino. Now, back to the show. When we talk about the 2016 Road Goats team, a big part of that story is the struggle. At that time, you're AA, you're so close, You're grinding through, you were trying to make the majors.
Honestly, I didn't personally think about it too much. I don't know. I probably should have thought about it more and maybe, realize how close I was. But I've always been a guy, I'm going out there, I'm playing ball, whatever happens, happens. And like I said, good group of guys, makes it a little bit easier to take it day by day.
That's 2024 All-Star third baseman Ryan McMahon. He was there in 2016, where that road trip season was easier for some than others.
Guys with families, a lot of them didn't see their families a lot, which is really sad because, around that age, right, a lot of guys have young kids.
Well, it was tough because, we're on the road, we come back home, they go right back into a hotel. We're on the bus, we go on the road, go into a hotel. And they never, for their families and stuff, that was the biggest thing that I saw. Them being able to get their family into town when we're at home and they're still in a hotel. It was kind of tough. And a lot of the guys were family oriented.
It's tough just because you don't truly have a home for the season. You're not living in a house with a group of your teammates where you can create some camaraderie. You can have a place to chill, do whatever you need to do when you're not at the field with one another.
They didn't let the struggle become the whole story.
It was like pretty much almost probably 70% of our team that year made it to the big leagues. So obviously we had a really good team.
Matt Carasiti was one of them, along with Pat Valleca, Raimel Tapia, David Dahl, Herman Marquez. Kyle Freeland pitched the first ever Yard Goats game, and then a year later gave Rockies fans an unforgettable home opener debut. Antonio Senzatella also broke camp with the 2017 Rockies. Ryan McMahon joined that team later on in the season in August.
That 2016 team, 17 future major league guys on that team. I knew it was a talented team, but 17 guys would eventually play Major League Baseball is very much impressive.
Jeff Dooley pretty much saw it all as the voice of the Hartford Yard Goats.
The tough thing is that it was the team that nobody got to know, right? Because they were on the road.
What makes it even more special, a lot of these guys all came up in the Rockies farm system together.
We were with one another. A lot of them were with each other from rookie ball all the way up till that point. But most of us, we were together in Asheville, won a championship together in Asheville. Most of us were in Modesto together, and then we were all kind of riding that train up the ranks to AA, trying to get to the big leagues. So we had a good team camaraderie. We obviously wanted to show the city of Hartford what we were capable of, and never really was able to do that at all.
The team was in the pennant race most of the season. I think if the team was home that year, I really believe that, because they were kind of steamed towards the end, I think that was a really good chance they made the playoffs that year.
Leading up to that season, we saw so much hype for the new team, but also hype for one pitcher in particular. Matt Carasiti. I think of you as the original Road Goat, because I think back to 2016, The Yard Goats just came into existence. They had you at the hot stove luncheon, so you got to meet all of the media, and you were kind of a big deal because you were the hometown kid there playing at the brand new ballpark. Yep. And then that never really happened. When did you find out that this stadium and you guys playing at it was all going to unravel?
So we were kind of in limbo for the first couple of months of the season. They kept telling us, they have to put in the bathroom, so it's pushed back a couple weeks, and then it just kept going and going and going, and eventually we were just like, maybe it's not going to happen. And then when it officially came out that it wasn't going to happen, it was a big blow. Obviously, we were all excited to play there, and obviously me being from Connecticut, it would have been amazing to play at home in front of friends and family and stuff and be able to live at home. I just bought a house, so it would have been perfect, but obviously things don't always work out.
At least one thing worked out very well for Carasiti.
The closer, Matt Carasiti, comes up, and the kid that grew up the street in Berlin, has a phenomenal Eastern League season for the Road Goats, and then next thing you know, you blink and he's in Colorado.
We're going to take a quick break to tell you this episode is brought to you by Coors Light. When you want to embrace a chill mindset, it is a good time to choose chill and crack open a Coors Light. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for a smoother finish. So when the mountains turn blue, that's how you know it's cold enough for the crew. Make the most of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. This episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Save up to 60% when buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, and more. Save even more when you choose the section and let Game Time choose the seats. You can see those seats ahead of time, too. Game Time gives you a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but make that account, redeem with code DNVR for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Now back to the show. Before the construction delays in Hartford, the team faced a very public battle over the name. For those who don't know, what is a yard goat?
So a yard goat, by the definition, is actually it's a piece of equipment basically in the rail yard. So we'll go with the train definition that actually connects the trains together. It's almost like an engine connecting.
For context, it's supposed to pay homage to Hartford's rich transportation history. They landed on yard goats after a major fan vote campaign.
We as an organization felt that, you know what, we're going to go with yard goats, right? This was the name. This was the name that was selected by a fan. We've got to go with it.
The logo is clearly not a train, but a cartoon goat designed by minor league baseball branding juggernaut Brandios in 2015. The color scheme is symbolic too. Do you remember the Hartford Whalers? The goats aim to create something new with a nod at the city's NHL past.
When people see the colors and they see the logo, their mode's going to change, and that was the case when they saw the Yard Goat brand. That holiday season, it was the #1 sale in merchandise in all of minor league baseball at any level.
They finally won over the fans that didn't get to see the inaugural team.
It was hotel field, hotel field.
Yes, that's Ron Gideon, the same Ron Gideon you see at first base coaching the Colorado Rockies. In 2016, the Rockies sent him to AA as a development supervisor.
It's going to be something we're going to have to deal with, and we deal with it the whole season. No griping. We're just going to do it. And they did it. They took it, brought them together, very tight-knit team. And so, you know, it wasn't miserable. It wasn't great, but we made it work.
They did a lot more than simply making it work. The Road Goats were one of the most promising Yard Goats teams that we've seen in their nearly decade-long existence. They found success despite those difficult conditions. Rockies starter Herman Marquez was one of them.
It was hard, but you know, that is what it is. We had to, play games and do the best to the team. Minor
league baseball is a grind in itself without all of the other hurdles.
Obviously, the goal is always to get to the big leagues and then stay there. But when you're in the minor leagues, it toughens you up, and that was just one thing on top of that we had to deal with as that Hartford team that was on the road for the whole year. But dealing with that on top of the minor league grind was something that most of us took head on, but it wasn't easy in any aspect.
They're even stuck playing at these weird times because the team needed to pay those venues hosting their home games.
We're like, all right, well, let's play 3:00 in the afternoon because we'll just play from 3 to 7, and the team doesn't incur costs with field lights, and staffing is limited, and whatever the case it is, because we were paying for, to use the facility when we were on the road.
As you can imagine, home games on the road don't really feel like home.
We were playing our home games in New Hampshire with 0 fans. Only people in the stands were, players scouting and maybe 3 or 4 scouts from other teams.
It was hard for us and the fans, that didn't have a chance to see us playing.
It was either wives and girlfriends players doing scouting and charts or other scouts.
Players, families that were coming in, they were able to come in and watch, but there was no concession stands open. There was nothing because it was just they were just playing baseball.
That was back when baseball fans were less accustomed to empty stadiums.
Do you feel a little sad when you think about how they never got to play for a consistent audience?
Yeah, you know, because that's what makes a lot of guys, it brings out the best in them. But yeah, it's like I said, you have to deal with things. Everything's not perfect. All it does is make you better.
But doing that with no fans in the stadium, you got to bring your own energy, which when you're at a very high competitive level, it's not easy to do.
Strangely enough, that experience proved useful just a few years later when the COVID-19 pandemic shortened the season and closed stadiums.
We kind of got used to it a little bit, and then kind of were able to carry it into that COVID season when we had no fans. But it's not easy because, you know, me personally, I feed off the energy of the crowd.
The 2016 Yard Goats were a resilient group, but part of that means making the most of those moments on the road.
What are some of the best memories that you have when you think back?
I can probably say this now. Drinking beer on the buses. We were on the bus like every 3 or 4 days, and the coaches were really cool about it. Usually you're not allowed to, like, you know, drink on the buses, but they were cool. They let us bring it on. We'd crush some beers, just hang out, play cards. That one might get me in trouble, but I think we're good.
They basically lived on that bus, but they couldn't have done it without the truck.
But like I said, we had a truck follow us around that kept all of our extra stuff in it, and that's about it. Besides that, we were just playing baseball.
I didn't know about the truck.
Oh yeah, we had like I don't know, like a big white truck. And we could keep like extra suitcases and stuff like that, and like we'd go in there probably like once a month and switch out clothes, different things like that.
I think it was a 18-foot rider truck that they ended up, we rented for the entire season.
The front office, they made it as good as they could for us because they understood and knew what these guys were going through. Our front office, our minor league people, their rovers and stuff that came through, they made it the best that they could for us, and that's all you can ask.
And that was really their portable locker room, because a lot of their items were in there, whether you had golf clubs, bikes, you know, all their stuff, because they're going from hotel to hotel to hotel. They didn't have really a home base.
Most of that 2016 team never got to see Duncan Park, but recently we saw the first Road Goat rehab appearance.
Would you like to have a rehab assignment in Hartford to finally pitch there?
Yeah, finally, yeah.
This feels like a full circle moment for Marquez. We asked him that question last season while he was still recovering from Tommy John surgery, but earlier this month, it finally happened.
It was cool the other day when Herman came in, and I told him, I said, "See, I told you this ballpark was going to happen." He smiled. He said, "Yeah, I wish I got a chance to play here," but he did get a pitch here. He got a chance to pitch here twice on a major league rehab stint with the Rockies, and it was pretty cool.
Despite everything, Herman Marquez was Eastern League Pitcher of the Year that season, completely on the road.
Herman Marquez, who had everything working the other night, he looked really good. Had 8 strikeouts in his 5 innings, and he looked sharp and he felt good. And hopefully he's going to return and give the Rockies a nice boost real soon.
Let's take a quick break. This episode is brought to you by Chinook Seedery. No sandpaper tongue, no salty burn. You can eat Chinook seeds all day long without tearing up your mouth. You'll find one-of-a-kind flavors you can't find anywhere else, like lemon pepper, jalapeno ranch, Parmesan and pepper, cinnamon toast, dill pickle, hatch chili, smokehouse barbecue. And did we mention they're the largest seeds on the market? Get a sampler pack to try all 8 of their flavors. Head over to ChinookSeedery.com. Use code ROCKIES for 20% off your order. Best seeds ever. This episode is also brought to you by Toyota. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR. Trucks have always been a part of Toyota's DNA. For generations, Toyota has built durable legends destined for greatness and perfect for Colorado. So whether you're conquering off-road trails or hauling the weight of the world, there is a Toyota truck that is right for you, like the 2024 Tacoma or the 2024 Land Cruiser. Toyota also has 17 models available with all-wheel or four-wheel drive, like the Epic 4Runner. And they're also offering more low and zero emission vehicles combined than any other automaker. Visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota, the official vehicle of the Colorado Rockies and the official vehicle of DNVR. Now back to the show. Once a new construction company came in, the stadium finally welcomed fans on April 13th, 2017. Opening day 2017 could not have been more perfect. A sellout crowd, beautiful weather, this gorgeous sunset. It happened to land on exactly 20 years after the Whalers left town. I mean, you can't script something that perfect.
You can't. You can't script something like that. 20 years to the day the Whalers played their last game and the Yard Goats franchise is born. It's unbelievable.
The Yard Goats didn't even win that home opener, but that night, it did not matter to fans. Every seat was full, the beers were flowing, and minor league baseball was back in Hartford for the first time in more than half a century.
I think being on the road for a year definitely helped with the interest level of fans in the Hartford area, where they wanted to see the ballpark, they wanted to get it.
I think now that it's been there and it's, it is what it is. It's an amazing place to see a game and play, obviously. I think that's kind of behind and in the past.
The end of the Road Goats chapter meant the beginning of the next.
This is kind of sappy, but honestly, probably just all the guys I played with. We had an awesome team. A lot of guys got really close, obviously being on the road the whole year. But it was really cool. It was cool for me, especially coming back the next year, getting to finally play in Dunkin' Donuts Park. So I have a lot of good memories.
Yeah, you're kind of one of the few that actually played the 2016 season on the road, but got to see the fruits of that fiasco. You got to play in the park. Was it worth it?
I think it was. With top-notch facilities through and through, definitely coming back the next year was way better than the year before.
They'll always have that place in baseball history.
Do you still think about it? Do you guys still talk about it? What do you think when you think of the 2016 season?
We kind of talked about it a couple of times going through because, when we talk about the players that are in the minor leagues now and how it was, and they always bring up, well, you remember when we were back on the road the whole year? I said, yeah, there's a lot of good memories, and we all remember them. We'll always keep them. It'll always be something that they can always talk about that they had to go through.
It was just one of those seasons that you really couldn't believe what was going on.
It was certainly one of the more talented teams to ever come through.
Talent we still see in purple pinstripes today, and with many more to come. Thank you for joining us for this special episode of the DNVR Rockies podcast. Special thanks to Isabel McFessel of the Yard Goats, our own Ryan Green, and of course, Kale Sorbo, who did so much work to make this all happen. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend.